What if your inconsistency on the golf course wasn't about mechanics? And what if your consistency in pursuit of your goals, both personally and professionally, had nothing to do with your tactics and strategies, but instead how your brain is wired to learn, handle stress, and perform under pressure? In today's episode of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset podcast, I sit down with John Weir, creator of the mental golf type, to explore how personality wiring, hypnosis, and mental fitness shape your golf performance and your personal and professional performance. Fellow golfer, what is up? Welcome back. So grateful you are here. Excited to introduce you to John to share the phenomenal, impactful conversation that John and I had. I mean, personally, this was an incredibly challenging multitasking experience for me. I'm trying to host, facilitate, and lead this conversation, and simultaneously, I'm taking a bit of notes myself because I'm learning a tremendous amount. And fortunately, like I tell you, I go back and listen to these conversations. There's so much value to be applied both on and off the course. And I know that you're going to love this conversation. And before we dive in, I want to say thank you. You know, it's this type of guest, and every guest continues to bring more value, more experience and education. And one of the driving forces behind me having an opportunity to have this conversation is because you have left a rating and a review. You've shared this podcast with a friend, a fellow golfer. So thank you for doing that. You sharing the show, you leaving a rating and review goes a long way in helping me to continue to have even better, more impactful conversations to help you unlock your potential both on and off the course. Let me introduce you briefly to John Weir, in case you're not familiar with him and the Mental Golf Type program. He's the creator of that. He's the author of The Golfer's Guide to Mental Fitness, and he's helped golfers around the world unlock peak performance through the power of their mind. He holds a psychology degree. He's an NLP master practitioner, and get this, he's a board-certified hypnotist and instructor via the National Guild of Hypnotists. He's trained coaches and practitioners in 60 different countries, and he's played a seminal role in so many top athletes' successes, achievements, and trophy moments. And he's here today on the Scratch Golfer's Mindset podcast. So without further ado, let's dive into this conversation with Mr. John Weir. John, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
Likewise, and we're going to dig in. I am so curious to know, how do you define hypnosis?
Oh, that's a good question right off the bat. I define it as something that's based in the natural science of our mind. And when I look at defining what hypnosis is, it's a little bit longer than just a simple sentence or two, but it's 4 brainwaves that we primarily are oscillating through all the time. And once we start learning how to tap into that learning state or those learning brainwaves, that's what can really amplify things. So it's a really natural process. 4 brainwaves we oscillate between: beta, where we're at now, hopefully, wide awake, alert, aware. Alpha, if we're playing golf, this is our zone state, relaxed awareness in the present moment, nice and absorbed into what we're doing. Theta brainwaves, that's Saturday morning whenever you're hitting the snooze alarm and going into those nice lucid dreams. It could be pretty synonymous with those theta waves. And then delta, which is our sleep state. So what hypnosis is it's getting us back into those alpha and theta brainwaves, which are our learning states. It's where we're really receptive and can just absorb information like we did as a child. So it's more about getting into a receptive state and being able to fill the mind with information you want to act on it. Finally get it in there to, again, take action on it and produce more of what you want.
Phenomenally said. And I really want you to hear, for those of you listening, how many times John said natural state of mind. I often joke, but I'm serious when I say, whether it's Las Vegas or Hollywood, they paint this picture that is this form of brainwashing and mind control. But as John alluded to, it's a literal natural state of mind that if you learn how to access, can become incredibly powerful. John, tell us more about, that receptive word you used to describe this state. We're receptive to information, suggestion. Why is that valuable?
Well, it's really valuable because when we're trying to make a change at this conscious state, we're hitting a wall. I mean, once we start to become fully adult and our brains are fully developed, our beta brainwaves are primarily just designed to critique and evaluate this bombardment of information we're exposed to. So it's just a filter. It's saying, is this right for me? Is this not right for me? Is this good for me? Is it not good for me? And so even the things that we're wanting to make changes on, it's filtering it based on what's already inside the core of your mind in the subconscious, or what we could call your self-image. And this is being formed while you're a kid. It's formed through your self-talk. And we also have this beautiful ability of neuroplasticity. So the more we start driving in information, our brains will change. But if we're doing it at a waking state, it takes a long time. And we can actually speed that process up. If you're not into hypnosis, just start using your brain productively in your first and last 20 minutes of every day, because you're naturally in an alpha brainwave state there. So that's when your affirmations can be a lot more powerful. That's where you can start shaping your brain a lot more effectively. But when you really look at it, when I was studying the brainwaves of adolescence and childhood, kids are always in alpha and theta brainwaves. I mean, this is the states that they're in, and this is where our massive feats of learning really are taking place, Paul. I mean, when you look at language development, understanding mathematics, learning to read, all these these roles that we have from society and in our families and all these things, children are just soaking it in like a sponge, and they're just acting upon it. There isn't that filter saying, no, I don't know if this is right for me or if it's not. So over time, though, that self-image gets formed. So let's say in the golf context, if you form the self-image that you're a bad driver of the golf ball, and you're trying to change that thought by just using an affirmation, it typically hits that filter and goes, well, yeah, you're not really that good, so why would I accept that? And it takes a lot of work to get that idea there. Once we start getting into states like more of hypnotic states, using those morning alpha and theta brain waves, we lower that filter, and we're able to bypass it. It becomes a lot more porous, so we can take that information and get it in where it can start to be accepted and start to shift the self-image. And once that self-image shifts, everything changes. So your subconscious is always trying to make that right. Its job is to support that picture at all costs. So it doesn't evaluate if it's positive or negative. Once it's there, it's like, okay, now we got to support this and make it correct, or we get cognitive dissonance. So if you look at a good athlete, they believe themselves a good athlete. You don't have to motivate them to go practice. That's a part of that self-image that makes them a good athlete. Go work out, eat right. If you're a good driver of the golf ball, you think differently about teeing off the ball versus someone who isn't. And so once we get that information into the subconscious, then it's going to be really effective for people.
Such an interesting example you shared, because I've come across, dozens of times now, a lot of my entrepreneur business owner clients who are avid golfers, maybe during childhood, it seems there's a pattern where they were not athletic. So they carry this story, this image that they're not an athlete. So the fact that they know they need to get out and practice more, they need to be in the gym. There's so much friction and incongruency because the story they tell themselves is I'm not an athlete, and it's a real uphill battle. And until we get back to uncovering when, why, and how did that self-image come to be and start upgrading it. So I love that you shared that. I need the listeners to really understand what encompasses our self-image. What are those constituent elements, and when and how is that image built as we're growing up?
Wow, that's a lot there. I think it's built primarily between several factors. One, the things you're consistently saying to yourself over time. Yep. The things you believe that you hear from other people that you take in and absorb, things you may hear and then say, okay, they must be true because my parents are saying this or my coaches are saying this. And then society is really bombarding you with tons of information to shape that, make you a consumer, to make you want a lot of different things. And so we're constantly being bombarded with that, with media, commercials, the types of things we're watching on TV, the types of things we're listening to music-wise. All these things are creating and shaping self-image. And primarily it's being built when you're adolescents and through teenage. So again, it's really about driving in that consistent message and training the young kids that it's very important, the things that what you're saying to yourself, because that's really starting to shape it. Once we become adults, it becomes a little bit more work if we're not making use of our minds and how it actually is designed to work. So we need to get into those relaxed states. And once we're in relaxed states, now we can really begin to shape it and change things really pretty quickly. Doesn't mean it's overnight. It doesn't mean that it's like, snap the fingers and it's done. We like to call hypnosis anymore mental fitness, because it's really what you're doing. You're giving your brain a workout to embrace and start shaping and remolding the clay, if you will, to really begin to support the things you want. And so a lot of those things are there, designing and shaping, and then obviously experience, and then what we're remembering from that. So your memory is linked to emotion, and at least in the golf world, everybody has these strong negative emotions after a poor shot. And that's actually telling the brain a really powerful message like, hey, I want to do more of this. And it links it to memory, whereas you see them hit a good shot, they go, oh, it's what I'm supposed to do, or I should do that all the time. And it's like completely neutral or flat. And it doesn't motivate the subconscious to want to do more of it. And so those things are also at work, designing and reinforcing the self-image.
So well said. And I have a strategy I use with my clients around how to get them to be more emotionally charged when they do something well. Before I share that, I'm curious, like, what do you coach and teach when they have a positive outcome on and off the golf course to start really ingraining the positive emotional charge of that process and outcome?
Well, one, we educate them on the linking of the memory, first off. It's like you need to have positive emotions there. So we just start celebrating and giving ourselves credit. For so many years, players just tear them apart whenever they're not doing it well and are great at critiquing themselves. So we were just at a university and we're just working on the range. A young girl is working on her short game. And we just said, hey, every time you do something good, I want you to acknowledge it. Like, that was great. Do a little inner fist pump. Hit another good chip. That was great. And we're acknowledging it out loud and with just an inner emotional drive. It doesn't have to be anything extraordinary. And then we also teach people that you can go home and start recalling during your rounds, like those peak moments. So like, what were the peak moments of your round? What's that 10 out of 10 moment? And then have one of your clubs nearby. So then as you're starting to elevate that emotion, you can grip your club while you're feeling that peak. And that's starting to set that anchor into a natural response that you have in your golf game. And then once the feeling starts subsiding, release that little bit of an anchor or that grip pressure, and then go back in and rebuild it again. And some of this revolves around personality type too. So if you're an extroverted type of person, talk it out, get yourself charged up. Once you're talking it, getting that memory going, now grip the club and set that anchor. If you're an introverted person, close your eyes, get into that, feel that deeply. And as you feel those positive emotions elevating again, grip the club till it's starting to subside. And that's going to start setting that into motion. One last thing that you can do too on the range, which is pretty fun, is standing back at what we call the commitment line prior to like walking in and addressing the ball. You can start eliciting really good emotions here. And it doesn't have to be golf related. So like, as you were alluding to some of your business people, some of my peak moments have been in public speaking. So I used to think and say like, man, when I felt so free and fluid and so confident, and I'd start recalling the speech and I start generating that confidence, and I'm walking in and addressing the ball, doing my normal routine and going. Because again, we have what's called a spatial anchor. And that spatial anchor can be around the golf ball, and you can train that to be whatever you want. So I say, well, I want to feel confident. So stand back, elicit confidence from an area of my life or my golf game, and take that right in, take my shot on the range. And I'd step back and say, what else would I want? Maybe a sense of freedom. And I think about times when I was maybe free on the road, or we're having a nice road trip and I'm nice and free, not having a care in the world, to step in, hit that shot. And what we're doing is we're anchoring, again, that pattern of walking in and around the ball to mental and emotional states. So those are a couple of little things that people could go do practically right now. And lastly, most importantly, on the course, when you do something good, give yourself that inner fist pump. It doesn't have to be outlandish, but you want to acknowledge that. And then strive for more neutrality with your errors so that we can get the learning from it, because the emotion will cloud the adjustment process or the learning process there. So it's a better strategy, in my opinion, than critique and beat up.
I mean, I can confidently say this is one of my peak moments. I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation. There's so much to unpack, but I wanted to come back to my way of celebrating. And I stole this from Dr. BJ Fogg. He wrote a book called Tiny Habits. It's a great, great read. But he building off this principle of celebrating the positive, the things we do well, he suggests that you celebrate like you've just landed your first job. You're that broke college kid. You finally get that first job. And I can actually personally remember exactly where I was receiving that phone call. I let out a big fist pump, a big fuck yeah in my car, 6 a.m. My future boss called me. And that fist pump still stays with me, 20 years later, because it was so emotionally charged. And it just helped me really enjoy the sacrifices I had made to get to that point. So I love hearing that echo off of what you recommend. And then the anchor, the at-home anchor, that's an icing on the cake strategy right there, that you listening, you need to go put a golf club in your office, in your family room, and start using it. Just like John said, if you can continue to familiarize yourself with that state, it becomes easier and easier to access on demand when you need it most.
I had a similar fist pump moment. I was in 8th grade, school assembly basketball game, hit this half court shot to take it into overtime with the whole school. And it was like everything was nice and quiet. Things were slowing down, and it went through, and it was like everything erupted. It's like, ah. And to your point, it's still there. And that's actually something that I fire off quite a bit if I need to get charged up. I recall that because those peak things they're a part of you. And so you can draw on those at any point in time. And that's the real reason I'm like, jack up your positive experiences on the course. Because those things will solidify and start to become more a part of your golf game. And the cool thing is now you start manifesting and drawing in more of those types of moments because your consciousness begins to seek those things out rather than more mistakes and more challenges.
Yeah, it's like you're now the one in charge of which filters you're creating. We're accessing the good old reticular activating system here. Those positive moments are easier to recall. We're able to see more of them in our awareness and our environment. And yeah, now we get kind of stuck in that upward positive spiral, which is a much better place to be stuck compared to the downward negative one.
That's right. That's right.
You used an interesting concept that I was really excited to dig into. So to give you a little context, a lot of the last, let's call it 12 to 20 episodes here on my show, we've really dug in, solo episodes and with guests, on the difference between kind of mental game strategies, mindset training. And I'm a big believer they are different. Meaning the mental game strategies are the kind of the what to do, the when to do it. The mindset is why are you not doing what you know you need to do? And that's getting into the unconscious patterns and programs. Mental fitness. I had not yet come across that until I was preparing for this. Further define that for us. What is mental fitness and how can we begin to actively strengthen or cultivate mental fitness?
Yeah, I mean, first off, it was a creative reframe on hypnosis because I was just tired of having to go through and tell everybody like, okay, like this isn't the movie thing. Trust me, if it was that way, I would be sitting up in the hills in my nice mansion and, using my pendulum to get what I want. And it's not that way. And also there's a misperception that it's some sort of magic bullet where in behavioral changes, we can create really accelerated changes. So somebody could stop smoking or begin a new weight loss pattern or get motivated or, overcome something that's there. But those types of things have a finality to it where it's like, you're smoking or you're not. So like sometimes people where their readiness to change is there. Others need more sessions in order to accomplish that. When it comes to athletics and sports, it's almost like your physical fitness. Like at what point is you say, well, I'm physically fit. Now I don't need to do anything for my body, right? As soon as you do that, you're already going downhill. What we want to drive in for players is you don't have to wait for you to have a struggle or be in a problem situation or a slump to want to make an improvement mentally or to make a shift. So mental fitness is trying to drive in a new concept to say, like, you want to put your brain through just as much of a workout as you do your physical body. And that's doing like a full hypnosis session at home. That's taking the time in those the last 20 minutes of the day to be driving in proper affirmations and to elevate that awareness through the day. But primarily it's there to say, hey, I want to drive this concept in, let's say, going back to our early example, to be a better driver of the golf ball. So I'm going to set aside 20 minutes, just like I do for my body every day, to go within that receptive space and either listen to an audio or work myself actively through mental rehearsal in order to strengthen my brain and build out a more grooved neural pathway. And I heard this one, I think it was a Joe Rogan podcast with one of the neuroscientists was on, And he was saying, like, now they're proving that, like, you're doing mental rehearsal and doing it vividly, you're getting up to 50% of the same gains in your nervous system and in your brain as doing physical work. And what I tell people is your mental fitness can always be perfect. So it actually, in the golf world, it might be actually even more productive practice to accelerate skill acquisition, to accelerate the changes and improvements you're looking to make, whether it's emotional, technical, or physical. Your brain is the driver of everything. And so a big misconception is I'm going to be struggling, or, oh, it's only for pros, or it's this thing. It's like your brain's governing everything in your life. And so doing that mental fitness daily or striving to do something like that is an excellent way to be building your self-image, to getting more out of yourself, to being more productive, happier out there. So it's kind of what we're bringing it to. It's basically doing like your own hypnosis session every day and taking advantage of your brain's neuroplasticity and that innate power that we have.
It's truly a catalyst for next level growth, success in every domain of life. I love how you frame that. I'm curious, when you are coaching, is there any element of regression in your hypnosis that you utilize as another change modality?
When I was doing a lot of behavior mod, yes, I did a lot of regression work. There can be, yeah. Most of the time now, I'm not doing it as much to imprint removal, but more about eliciting successes and really driving in those successes all the time, kind of like what we were talking about. If there's some major scar tissue, let's say from a really bad event or a big mistake where you get DQ'd unnecessarily or different things, sometimes those can go in to help to recontextualize the way we're thinking. Again, we get stuck in patterns, or we get stuck in a very limited way sometimes of viewing a situation. So again, going into a state of relaxation and allowing our brain to be a little bit more peaceful in that situation can sometimes bring a lot of new insights and help to bring a lot of clarity to move things forward.
So well said. I love that. Mental fitness. That's such a great analogy framework. It's a little bit more relatable, easy to digest again, because I empathize with you. Okay, hypnosis is not X, Y, and Z. I'm not extracting your deepest, darkest secrets. I'm not going to get you to cluck like a chicken. I get it. So I like that framework as well. Very digestible. And it reminds me too, kind of, this is circling back to an earlier point. Like, my listeners know, as John and I are recording this, I've got a 10-month-old at home, and just watching his rapid development every single day is nothing short of incredible. He's also my little guinea pig. I share so many positive affirmations with him every day. You are strong. You are confident. I believe in you, and the list goes on, because again, I'm trying to capitalize on just how receptive and open he is at this age. And it's so fun to watch, to say the least.
It very much is. And my sisters have done that with their kids, and the growth that those kids have and how open they are to doing things and how confident, it's extraordinary. And we can give that gift to everybody with the way we talk and know that everybody's being receptive to that. So most especially give it to yourself. I always tell people, when you get on the plane, they say when that if anything happens and the oxygen mask falls, put it on yourself first so you can best take care of people. Make sure you're doing that for you, because the happier, more confident, positive you are, the more you're going to go and share that out there with others as well. So,
yeah, really well said. So we're going to pivot. And really, it's interesting, as I got back involved in golf a few years ago, after not picking up a club for 16, 17 years, even one of my own patterns was like, okay, go see what the best players are doing, those on tour, and quickly try to mimic that as much as possible. What drills is Scotty Scheffler doing? What's Rory doing for his fitness? Yet, as I was preparing, and I already knew a lot about you and your work, but as I was really digging in here, one of the mistakes that people make in just trying to mimic the pros is it completely disregards their personality style, their preferred learning preference. And that really shook me when I heard that or read that for the first time, because you're right. Just simply trying to mimic the best of the best, it may work for you if you happen to get that 1 in a million perfect alignment, but 99 times out of 100, it's not quite aligned with how you learn, how you're receptive to information. So talk a little bit more to our listeners about the importance of really understanding your personality type and your learning style to accelerate results.
Yeah, so this has been the pursuit for the last 13 years now. It's been more a big obsession. And it comes back to what you're saying. Like, when you look at the greats have never tried to be other people. They've actually taken a lot of time to develop their own self-awareness. They've been around really good coaches, and people helping them to build their mindset and understand themselves really effectively. And so then the challenge is we see success in one area and we all say, well, let's just follow that. And that may or may not be good, and especially in a game like with golf. What it comes down to, everybody wants to be consistent. And what we realize, when we're looking at universal patterns, what's the zone? We're in nice alpha relaxed brainwaves, but what puts Paul into that state might be a lot different than me versus Tiger versus Scotty, etc. And then we look at universally again, what stops our zone state and what's going to break down athletic performance the most, and that's stress. And most people don't look at stress in golf, but this is the thing. It's how our brains are making shifts under pressure. And it's not just acute stress. The majority of consistency issues out there that's breaking down motion is the subtle stressors. And so the basic science of stress is once you're starting to have any type of fight or flight response or a stress response, cortisol starts shifting and changing into your brain. And that cortisol acts like a paralytic. So it's going into the motor cortex of your brain and literally acting like a vice grip on it. A real simple example you can think about is if I put a board on the floor right now and I had you walk across the board, it'd be a really, really simple task. Walkings we do all the time. There's no consequence. You just walk and stroll right across it. If I take that same board, put it up about 6 feet in the air, again, probably still pretty confident to go walk across that board. Little consequence, you might fall off, jump off of it, but there's not really that big of a thing. But still, think about how your movement would begin to change just from being 6 feet up. Now we take that same board, put it across a busy street, 25 feet up in the air, and say, okay, same board, you walked across it fine on the ground, but think of how you would actually approach it with something that you do all the time and very unconsciously. Most people would be unable to really walk effortlessly across that board. Some people do. We see those skyscraper workers. They've overcome that fear. And those are kind of like our tour players, right? So you have these different changes on the ground. That's our range time. Nice, free. Things are consistent. We go and play around with our friends. A little bit more consequence because we got a score now. So things are getting a little bit different. Now it's tournament time. And the real stress is happening. And for most people, that stress changes their movement pattern a lot. Yeah. If you talk with a swing coach, it takes a long time to change motion. So if you're going to rebuild your golf swing, it's like a 12-month to 18-month journey if you're really committed to working on it. So motion doesn't change fast once you have a pattern built. So hitting it good on the range and walking that magical walk to the first tee and seeing differences in your swing is not a mechanical breakdown. It's the shifts going on in your mind subtly or acutely and due to the stress. So what we looked at with personality is we started finding the link that there are predictable patterns that we always do. So when we're looking at the 3 different levels of mind, your personality is in your unconscious. I mean, it is built in and it is wired to your fight or flight. And the ironic thing is we have a right and a left hand for all these mental facets. Our dominant hand will relax our brain. It brings forth athletic performance really effectively. Our inferior preferences are actually when it gets invoked, if we're not aware of it, in stress. And so we're using a different part of our mind in a different part of our way, creating cortisol, it creates overload. Next thing you know, our athletic motion is breaking down. And this is the same thing with learning. If we're following different learning patterns that aren't necessarily suited for us, we have a lot more resistance. We're not really motivated to go do it. The process takes a lot longer to achieve. And so now we're trying to combine, get everybody on board with understanding your natural strengths. So what we do at Mental Golf Type isn't necessarily trying to get you, Paul, to do anything new. We're actually revealing what you do whenever you're at your best and you're using your dominant preferences. And these are the things you're predictably doing all the time. And what you do whenever you're going predictably into stress. And then again, we can use tools like hypnosis and things to change some of the subconscious information, which is your habits, your beliefs, these things. But if we don't address the stress aspect of things, performance is very inconsistent and we tend to struggle. And the amazing thing is once you figure out these things, they don't change. So you get better and better at being able to catch it, correct it, and now align with your best self and your best strengths. And it's literally can be a swing where it's now back into full freedom and full athletic performance of what you train.
What I also hear, which is a bit of a nuance in what you're sharing that you're probably aware of, but I want to make sure the listeners understand, is like through this awareness gaining process, sure, there's more information to learn, but it's not you drinking through a garden hose getting this information. You're just gaining more awareness of your strengths, your preferred methods that are an innate part of your personality versus going to YouTube, Instagram, TikTok and getting 1,000 different strategies and swing tips. This is already capitalizing on what you're aware of. I imagine it's a very validating experience, a dot connecting, like, oh, that makes sense, which I love because, again, there's no shortage of information here. And we are all guilty of getting bogged down by too much to the point it becomes paralyzing. Mm-hmm. Can you give us an example, John, of two different individuals, how they may differ in how they respond and handle stress, and what two different solutions may be in helping them move forward effectively?
Yeah, I mean, you could just look at Tiger and Phil. I mean, those are two polar different personalities, yet they've also had wild successes. I mean, Phil's won 50 times plus, right around there, and Tiger's in his, 80, 90 wins. Mm-hmm. So both wildly successful athletes, but approach the game much different. One distinction that everybody could go do right away is even just, we have four facets of our personality that we look at and we measure with our free fitting. Is one, your energy source. So you can either be extroverted or introverted. Now, this is often stereotyped, kind of like hypnosis, where it's all social, and that's really not what it is. It's about how we're directing and utilizing our mental energy. So if we want to use Tiger and Phil, great example. Phil is extroverted. Their brains work better as they're talking, as they're putting energy out into their environment. So as they put energy into the environment, through verbalizing, through exuding it with their body language, through even just scanning with their eyes, they're soaking in and getting more energy back. So when you're watching Phil at his best, he's verbalized, talking it out. He's talking with bones. Hey, this is what I want to do. This is what I see. These are the details I'm seeing. And his brain is actually processing and firing better through verbalization. Tiger, on the other hand, strong introvert. I mean, whenever you watch him at his prime, I mean, I remember being at Oakmont watching him, and this was 10 plus years ago. I'm waiting for him on number 2, and he comes in. I mean, it's like he's got blinders. His eyes are on his ball. He's like literally in this like racehorse mode where he's disconnecting from all the environment. He's in his own space, he's in his own world. Even as he's walking, his eyes have this little bit of a downward gaze, even though he has nice, confident body language. You see him processing things fully before he articulates to his caddy or anything. Most of it's all internal processing. Now, what's interesting, though, is you see things get off when people get stressed. We literally do the opposite. So watch Phil. He gets quiet. You go back and watch it. His head comes down. He gets self-contained. He stops talking. And you start seeing performance literally derailing at that point. Tiger slams a club. He looks out in the gallery. He's now soaking in all this external information. And now he's getting overloaded and things start falling apart. And so this is one of those really observable signs. So if you're an extroverted person in life and you enjoy that communication, talking, verbalizing, you don't have to go out and try to be like Tiger. You go out and try to be like Tiger, you're literally putting a hamper on your athletic ability that just by talking out your shot will already boost your performance. I mean, it's really, really simple strategy to do. And then be really aware whenever you're getting quiet and vice versa. Introverts with their friends, right, can sometimes start losing their energy because they're leaking it out. Eventually, performance, they start losing their focus. Well, if that's the case, find time to like grab your wedge and walk to the green and like carve out a little bit of time for yourself there, or make these little pockets where you're getting more absorbed into yourself, because that's going to help boost your energy and actually get you moving forward. And Tiger and Phil, if you watch why Phil struggled with him in the last groups, Tiger never talked to him. He like iced him out. And then like among other things, but like, and it's pretty interesting to watch, and you'll see this very observable. And we also have a focus facet. So believe it or not, there's different ways we focus. Mm-hmm. Some people are more into details, systematic, linear type of processing. They like the specifics. We also have an intuitive part of our mind that looks at more big picture concepts, theories, the types of patterns that are there. So like a real simple analogy is like a sensor would be on the ground floor of a forest, taking in all the details where they can touch it, see it, feel it, look at all the things very detailed. The intuitive person is primarily in the helicopter, taking in the topography and seeing more of the generality and the overall picture of things. Well, this comes into play with our targeting and our focusing at addressing things. So we take for granted, we get like this idea, aim small, miss small. Well, it sounds great for a lot of people, but for myself as an intuitive, it's like, again, putting the vice grip on my brain. The more I get into that smaller target,
Yep.
the more my mind gets locked into mechanics, and vice versa. If you have a sensor who likes that detail and that precision, when they start getting stressed, they just start using real vague targets like, oh, it's anywhere out in the fairway, or I just need to hit the green. And when they're doing that, their brain is missing that critical information that makes them feel comfortable and relaxed. So again, more overload, the brain starts secreting cortisol. That cortisol clamps on the motor cortex, and we see changes in their swing. So the swing breaks down, but it isn't because of the mechanical breakdown. It's due to the brain's subtle shifts in the secretion of the cortisol. And so a lot of players have a disconnect. They play poorly, or they feel like they're leaving stuff out on the course. It's a decent day, right? But like, why can't I get there? Then they go to the range and it's flush, 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 flush. And they go, oh, I may need more lessons, or I need to work more on my swing. And I'm not suggesting like we don't work on our swing. It's a part of it. It's an ongoing part.
Yep.
But they're trying to make their improvement at the wrong level. Once you start understanding where these subtle stresses are coming out at, you can begin to just make these minor adjustments to how you're doing things. Like, let's say you need to set a zone for your target instead of something really precise, and vice versa. These are simple strategies that unleash your natural athletic ability. A simple real life example you can do is if you have a pen and paper at home, sign your name with your dominant hand and sign it and see what your performance is like. Usually people say, John, is fluid, is natural, is comfortable, effortless. And then look at the result. And this is the zone days. Zones always feel effortless, free, natural. This is why you scratch your head all the time and say, like, why can't I do this all the time? This felt so simple. Then take the pen in your other hand and sign your same name and notice the way that performance is. Most would say it's tedious, it's mechanical, it's tough, there's more thought. And then you look at the result and it's mediocre compared to the natural, effortless one. And this is what's happening when we're playing stress or going against our preferences. It's more work, more effort, more grind, only to produce something mediocre. And so our whole goal is to say, like, it's to help to discern. So like to your point about having a lot of information, if I play a draw, what sense does it make to watch YouTube videos that teach the cut move or something to play a cut, right? And vice versa. What we help to do is, one, say, this is your gift. There's nothing wrong with the other side, but like these would be the types of things you want to focus on and develop strategies around, because this will unleash it. And the other side is we're not building that or bringing that into play. We want to be aware of it and correct it, and then realign right away with what we naturally do best. That's the path where we found produces the best consistency, and it's top down from tour to someone trying to break 90. It's all our brain. Our brain doesn't change. So if you're a shooter trying to break 90, your brain's still influencing you the same way it does as a tour player. So this education is, I think, really valuable for people to understand and help them to bring out their best.
I just can't get away from this theme of simplicity. You're making it so much simpler, which is not the same as easy, but by eliminating abstract information that's not nearly as effective, by creating a sense of strategic tunnel vision around what to focus on, what's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. Things are simpler, things are more clear. It's easier to take the necessary action. And guess what? As a result, you get better results and probably much faster. I love this. So take this away from the course for us now. I know there's incredible transferability, but let's paint a picture, create an example. When we become aware of our mental golf type, our preferred learning style, our personality type, how does that begin to benefit us away from the course, whether in our relationships or in our professional life?
Well, right away in relationships, you start realizing there are 16 different biocomputers. So most communication errors aren't due to anything personal. It's literally just a wiring difference in the way people are perceiving things. I'll give a real life example from my house. So I go back to the energy, right? My mother is the social butterfly of social butterflies. I mean, she's the type of person that will walk into a store, all strangers, and by the time she's leaving, they're saying, "Bye, Nancy," like it's extraordinary. And my dad, while he was around, he was self-employed and he was a strong introvert. And so self-employed, working all day, trying to put his energy out all day, right? We learn to do it, we have to do it, but it's draining, right? So at the end of the day, my dad, as an introvert, wanted to have his own quiet, private time for just a few minutes to help recharge those batteries, to like reboost and get back into what's going on at the house. Just wanted to sit and read by himself. have like 30 minutes. Now, my mom, she's at home, kids are at school, dad's at the office. She has nobody to talk to. She's quiet, she's contained. It's like bursting at the seams, ready to talk. And it happened almost every day, Paul. He'd come home, she'd be coming to talk with him, and he's like, I just want my time. She wants to talk. And then she's like, why can't you give me this time? Because you worked all day. You gave it to all these people, yet you won't come and talk to me. And he's like, I worked all day. I just need a few minutes. Why can't you give me that space? And they took it personal for years. I mean, it was like almost a daily conflict in some way. Then we put them through the assessment. And I remember the light bulb going off for both of them. And they're like, oh my God, like this has nothing to do with me, you know? So they ended up becoming a lot more peaceful because they built out a new strategy. My mom said, hey, I want to talk to you about the day and everything, and I'll give you those 30 minutes. You can go in there, but then you give me that time of conversing after. And it was things aligned. And they had a much more happy, successful relationship. Another thing that the personality shows is how we prioritize our life or structure it to accomplish goals. When you look at the parent-player or the parent-junior relationship, I mean, this happens a lot. We can even just stay with extrovert and introvert. You have an extroverted parent, they go, well, look, my kid's not enjoying himself because he's quiet on the course, or he's not engaged. And he's an introvert, and that introverted kid doesn't want to be talking so much. Or they sometimes feel guilty because they feel like they should be socializing, but they want to have that private time, or vice versa. You have a strong introverted parent, like let's say Tiger. Hey, my kid isn't paying attention. He's chatting and he's talking. He's not focusing out there. And again, conflict based on wiring. When we're looking at prioritizing time, I was the only perceiver in my whole family, meaning I like to be more spontaneous, kind of make my decisions more go with the flow, work on what I'm inspired or like a deadline. Everyone else was what we call a judger, who's very systematic and organized, who likes to structure their time, have their to-do list. I mean, growing up, we'd go on vacation, Paul, and my dad, I mean, he was in tour or travel business. He'd have an itinerary, and like everyone in my family loved it. Like they knew what they were doing. They were going to maximize their time, make a real efficient vacation. I'm like, can't we just show up and see what's there and what we're inspired to do? Going into real life, I tried to run my business early on like my dad, created tons of stress. And more so, it started affecting my self-esteem and self-image because I'm like, what's wrong with me that like I just can't go to the office at 9 o'clock and work on like doing emails from 9 to 10, and then from 10 to do it to this time, and then from this time to this time, and do that repeatedly every day. I just couldn't do it. And even growing up with school, my sister would come home, she'd have a project a month out. She'd get right to work on it, working very methodically to the due date. Me, I'm like, okay, I got time. I'm going to go skateboard. I'm going to go play some golf. I'm going to go hang with my buddies. And now I'm like 3 days out. I'm like, oh, I got to get to work. But my brain works best in that crunch time at that 11th hour, essentially. The pressure prompts my action and actually produces my best work. When I tried to do it in advance, it just never, ever really came out that well. And so again, when we're looking at it in applications in life, I mean, Carl Jung put this information out over 100 years ago. I mean, extraordinary stuff, 1921. So it's over 100 years now. Since that time, Myers-Briggs came along. It was a mother-daughter combination. They created the first ever indicator. So you could actually do an assessment of some kind and figure out what was your wiring. And they did it primarily for jobs, to help the women as they were going into the workforce during the war, to be able to be positioned in something that they would thrive in and be very successful in. Now I think there's 26 plus million Myers-Briggs assessments that have done around the world, all Fortune 500 companies, all government agencies, all the top organizations all do this to get people into the right positions and do the right things because, again, the more stress you have, we see it in test taking, we see it in public speaking, all this stuff. It hampers our ability to, one, enjoy our work and to be successful at it. So we didn't want to deviate too far from that Jungian language because our goal ultimately is hey, whether you figured it out through your corporate realm, we can come in and show you how to improve your golf game with that. If you come in through our realm, you can now bring that into your workspace and back into your corporate world. And then there's another organization, it was called, I don't know the actual name of it, but it's MMTIC. is
Right.
the acronym or the initials. And that's all for adolescents and their study habits
Oh.
and for school and for test taking abilities and all these things. Now, what we wanted to do with MGT was a little different than what was ever done before with typology. A lot of the personality stuff are descriptors. And so
Hmm.
you look at it and you go, well, that sounds like me. And that's great. But what do I do with the information?
Yes.
So what we found was that link, and it's only through golf. I mean, golf is just set up so amazing in a little microcosm of life that it revealed it. It wouldn't have been done in life because we just go into boiled frog syndrome, is what we call it. It's like you're in the water, it's slowly gauging up, and next thing you know, I'm burnt out at work. You're not able to perceive the changes. But golf is set up in this unique way where you approach a new situation, you have to evaluate information, you have to make a decision about it, you have to select an action to do. You prepare for that action, you step and do that action. Now you have to reflect on it, and you have like this grace period of time where you got to soak it in, and then you have to do it again and again and again. What we started to see was that shifting into stress and how these tools and these personality traits are actually being used in life, or specifically through the golf game. But it shows that progression. So it's not just information now, it's actually the application. Then you go into the workspace, you feel that same progression. Like for me, I'm like, oh, I'm getting too detailed into things. Let me just take a step back and like evaluate it from that 50,000 foot angle again
Mm.
and see how this is all connecting. Or I'm getting too structured and rigid into my scheduling. Let's bring a little spontaneity, get back into what I do better. Everything will flow a little better, or vice versa. Like maybe
Uh-huh.
since you're scheduled, you may not have enough schedule. Hey, let's get a little plan in place. Let's put down what I need to accomplish, get that to-do list checked off. Next thing you know, you're back in action and being very productive. So sorry for the long-winded thing there, but we wanted to do it for the game. And I'll be honest, when I was doing behavior mod before, the hospitals are referring me all kinds of people. The doctors are saying, you got to do this to change your life. And yet we needed every mental gymnastic tool to get people to do something positive.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing with golf is it's created this most beautiful learning environment where people are encouraged and excited to go and learn it and everything. And so
Yeah.
indirectly, we want to bring that out to benefiting their life, benefiting their relationships, benefiting their business. But we use the game as that way to really bring the information to light for people, because they just seem to soak it in a lot better that way.
Yeah, it's that application and integration from a joyous place that is out in nature and typically with buddies, or easily you're becoming new friends with strangers in a matter of a couple shots, a couple holes. I love that. And really what I hear too, John, as I'm listening and absorbing is, all of this knowledge gives you more awareness. And I almost feel like it creates a deep sense of acceptance. Like, okay, like I don't have to try to keep fitting a mold. I'm a round hole, a round peg trying to get into a square hole, or vice versa. You know what? No, like this is who I am. I accept it. I can actually work with it. These are my strengths. I can go against the grain. I can stand out, and suddenly I'm finding faster results. I'm able to integrate and build off of this awareness I have to achieve the goal on the course and off the course. And I love that, because I feel, again, when we're in an age where there's no shortage of information rapidly available at our fingertips, we're so guilty, and I'm using a huge generalization here, but like I'm just trying to be somebody else. Let me try this tip. Let me try this approach. And we've lost the ability to critically think effectively, to think for ourselves, and to be okay with doing differently, standing out. And you and I both know we're hardwired to belong, to fit in, to seek acceptance. But I love how I hear acceptance and I hear ownership. Like this is what works for me. Like, hell yeah, I'm going to roll with this and I'm going to get those results I've been looking for.
You nailed it. I mean, that's the key. Like, so our definition of the zone, we recontextualize it, and it's really you just being yourself. So going back to your earlier thing, why go and be like Tiger? I would only try to be like that if that's the way I'm wired.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I have my own strategy and my way of getting it done. And again, there's not one way that's better or worse. It's just learning how you're set up. And the thing is you're never going to get rid of this personality. Like you can't change it. It's hardwired in at birth, or it's these really, really early on pre-selected unconscious responses. I tend to believe it's just wired in. It's linked to fight or flight. It's more of the unconscious mind. So this is the main driver of everything. And so once we're becoming aware of that system we have, one, we accept other people more, and we actually become a lot more curious and critical. we're like, oh, that's
Love
really
that word.
interesting. Look at how they're doing it, and I can understand that. This is how I do it, and that's also equally valid. But it really just opens up a lot of different insights into things. And like I said, relationships improve, your ability to make progress in your life and things greatly improve. And again, it's not doing anything new. It's really understanding who you are. Now, if we share the same personality type, okay, we may have a similar framework that's governing the way we're thinking and the way we gather information, etc. But we're not the same person. And that goes into now what we talked about earlier with the subconscious and the hypnosis aspect. Your subconscious is the hard drive. So your personality is like your operating system. Like you don't change the Mac. The Mac is a Mac. A PC is a PC. It's like you're not changing that wiring or that underlying operating system. So we want you to understand what is your wiring. So once you understand that, great. Now you look at the subconscious. Here's your hard drive. So now what's on that hard drive? Is it things that support you with a positive, healthy self-image and mindset tools and things like that that are getting you going and motivating? Or are they negative programs? And again, that subconscious will support the negative programs the same way, but it's all staying within that operating system. So again, if we can eliminate the stress, we now can go in and clean up some of those hard drive programs. Now what we're seeing in our state and the output of things in our life is just, it's going through the roof. And so it's kind of a combination of all three. Most people aren't even aware even of their state or how their self-talk is. And then if they do, they're trying to correct self-talk, but that's so ineffective because it's only such a small portion of what's really driving the show with those other two levels of mind. And it's very much a binary system. I mean, we're not as complicated as what we think. We're either hinging into best or we're in a state of stress. We're either going and drawing on positive references in the subconscious or negative ones. And it's amazing because our brains delete, distort, and generalize. What drives that? It's actually how we're going through that first filter. So an interesting thing to know is your brain doesn't discern whether it's a real threat or an imagined one. So if you have a gator pop out of a pond down in Tampa and chasing you down there, I mean, that's a threat. I mean, you're going to feel that, but your brain doesn't know the difference between that and going, oh, I don't want to embarrass myself on this tee box. Now we have that imagined threat. Well, there's a consequence. Well, that fires off now the stress. So if we're not aware of it, your brain already shifts. So now we're hinging down into our underdeveloped functions in our personality level. So as we start using those underdeveloped functions that are linked to your stress, as it goes into the subconscious mind now, it deletes, distorts, generalizes, is now pulling all those negative references. It's going, oh yeah, that last time you topped the ball, or the last time you did that, or you embarrassed yourself, or remember this situation. And then that goes into your state. And what's your state? It's your emotional, the way you're thinking in the moment, and your physiology. So you see the body language change. They start seeing all these different behavioral changes, and it leads to a poor result. So it's very much a hinge system. And when you're at your best and you're like, I got this, and you're using naturally, which we do, our best functions, what happens then? It goes into the subconscious and it naturally brings up our positive references. We don't even hear or think of our failures. It's like, yeah, I did this well. And yeah, I did this well. And it just naturally hinges right up. And then it fuels that positive state. And so if we can get it to where things are starting from and at least hinge into our best, we already have massive self-image and self-confidence improvements because, again, it shifts what our brain is now putting the spotlight on into our subconscious, and that brings it into our state, and our state will then ultimately produce our result. So when I'm looking at mental game in golf, it now just comes back to cortisol management, essentially, like who is having the least amount of cortisol and the least amount of stress response. So again, it becomes a lot simpler, and it actually can be tracked. So with our shot process information and things, you can now track it through your round to get a mental performance score. So if you have a low mental performance score and you're bringing in a lot of stress through your shots, you're going to see a correlation with a really high number. You have a higher number of really good processes with free of cortisol, your scoring average drops significantly. And again, that's kind of where we're at with things. And if there's some other programming in the self-image, now we're using those tools, that mental fitness aspects to build that muscle, change out some of those programs. And next thing you know, we're hinging up. And it's just, we're seeing a higher number of really productive shots. And that actually is what unleashes the motor cortex. So as those things hinge up, the brain goes, I'm relaxed, I'm comfortable, I'm confident. Well, now the athletic motion is free to work without any type of restrictions. And that's kind of like the whole paradigm there on how we kind of work all three of those elements of mind.
Fascinating. I mean, you've put in an indescribable amount of time, energy, and effort into just cultivating these principles, these frameworks, these methodologies. And I'm so grateful that I get to pick your brain here. I mean, what's interesting too is like as I'm listening, I keep coming back to, a lot of my listeners, and maybe you relate to this as well, are just go, 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 do, do, do. Yet the beauty and the simplicity of everything you're sharing is in slowing down. Because now all of a sudden, when you slow down, we're inviting, or more likely to invite into that calm, that peace, that presence, which, gets rid of that cortisol. And that's when I always come back to this quote. I can never quite attribute it. It's not mine, but the voice of your subconscious mind is silence. So in those slowness, the solitude, the silence, we let our body, our subconscious mind take over. We can easily connect and harvest the power that's within it. Yet so many of us are wired to go, go, go. But the real solution in the simplistic route is if you want faster results, slow down.
Yeah, I'm all into that. I'm an avid meditator, and then we also with the mental fitness stuff, we've built that in and made sessions relating to your strengths. So now you can relax, and we're just drilling in what you naturally do. So then over time, you're just doing a breath, and you're like re-triggering all those natural processes of yours, and it's personalized right to you. But yeah, I'm all for slowing down. And that's the other process we like to teach, which would be more mindfulness and meditation. I think they're two distinct modes. So, and with different things. So with the hypnosis or mental fitness, it's designing to slow the mind down to fill the cup, in my opinion, with really positive things and accelerate learning. With meditation, it's really emptying the cup and quieting the mind and freeing the mind of a lot of the information. And both are valuable skills. And so we teach people, hey, you got to learn how to meditate for 5-10 minutes at least off course, so that when you're standing over that shot for those 3 seconds, you can actually quiet your mind down and get the best of your performance. But yeah, so I'm absolutely into the silence, into the slowing it down, and then taking the time to say, hey, who am I? And understanding that, because that is the zone, is being yourself. It's a combination of being yourself in those alpha brainwaves. But again, how are you getting into those alpha brainwaves? It's by being you. And the more you're yourself and the more you're doing things around what your brain is designed to do, the more relaxed we get. And we're in that sweet spot a lot more often in life, on the course, in business. It doesn't, in your relationships. And so it's fascinating stuff. But yeah, slowing down is great. That's when you unleash the real gems in your mind, is through the silence.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to get you out of here on this. It's one of my favorite questions I ask almost every guest, but I want you to imagine for a moment there is a billboard placed in the middle of a golf course, completely visible from all 18 tee boxes. And this billboard has what you feel is the most important message every golfer on that course needs to see. What are you writing on that billboard?
I would just put be you. That would be as simple as I could put it. Is just be yourself and don't chase somebody else. Look at building your self-awareness on what you do great, because that's the real key to untapping into your greatness. And it's not about being someone else. It's about being you and cultivating those gifts. So that's the zone, being you. And that's what we hope to help to bring to light for people. And that would be it.
Yeah. John, well, thank you for being you. Where can our listeners go to learn more about you, Mental Golf Type, have the opportunity to connect, work with you? Where do we send them?
Sure. You can go to mentalgolftype.com and we give a free mental fitting. So you can go in, get your results, learn all about these things already and dive into things. We also have an Instagram at Mental Golf Type. So yeah, please just take a look at it if it's something you're interested in.
And what about for the coaches or those who want to pursue more of kind of a coaching route with the Mental Golf Type? Where can they go to learn more about the certification?
That's also through our website. So we have a player page and we also have a coaching page. So we do have a certification there that dives into this, and that way we can adjust our communication to be matching our players and the people around us. So it's not always about changing what we teach. It's changing the communication method so it's being received and able to be processed by the students, and increases retention and increases a learning experience for everybody. So, yeah.
Love that. John, thank you so much. This has been absolutely phenomenal.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of you listening, thank you for tuning into another episode. I know you found tremendous value in the conversation John and I had. So not only do I ask that you go share it with a friend and a fellow golfer, but I challenge you to slow down, listen to it again, have your note-taking pen, pencil, typing keyboard ready, take the notes, and then take action on all of the great value and information that John has shared with us today. And if you haven't done so already, it takes 30 seconds to leave a genuine rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to today's show. That street cred, if you will, helps give me the capacity to get outstanding guests just like John to sit down for an hour and have a phenomenal conversation to best serve you. Thank you again for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Hit them straight this weekend, and we'll catch you in the